Did Cousins prove he is not ready for primetime?
Of course. Look, not just like his Monday Night Football in primetime, 0-8, is how about like comebacks in the fourth quarter? You know, Kirk Cousins got his first win as a Viking. He's been there almost 2 years when trailing in the fourth quarter last month. Look, in this position, a lot of times you seem like the bad guy, right? Because you just got to tell the truth as you see it, and sometimes people's feelings get hurt, you know? I thought Booger set it up beautifully when he said he presented all the info on Kirk Cousins and what people thought about him, and then he said, okay, America. In other words, we're about to find out. And then when we found out, I thought after the fact, started making excuses for Kirk Cousins a little. Because it's not like he played off like terribly in the moment of truth. He just wasn't good enough. No, let's not walk it back now. Booger was right the first time. Okay, here's the narrative. No one wants to say story anymore. Everyone wants to say narrative. Okay. Here's the story, everybody. Kirk Cousins can't get it done when it matters most. America, here we are. Did he get it done? Yes or no? After the game, post-game analysis, I kept hearing Vikings going to be a tough out. They'll be a tough out.
Yeah.
Tough out. What do you mean tough out? Why aren't they a Super Bowl favorite? You know why they're not a Super Bowl favorite? And we all agree Vikings are a tough out. No one's picking them to win the Super Bowl. But we all think, yep, they can maybe win a playoff game. They'll be a tough out. Because they don't, if they had, just do this thought experiment for a second. Same Vikings team, take Russell Wilson, just switch quarterbacks. Now Russell Wilson's on the Vikings. Are the Vikings considered a tough out? Or do you think they might win the Super Bowl? That's the difference. If you put a great quarterback there, or a quarterback even that you just believe could get it done under pressure, on the Vikings, they would not be considered a tough out. They would be considered one of the, if not the, Super Bowl favorites. Let's not walk it back now. America, here it is. Can he get it done? The answer last night was, for the 8th time on Monday Night Football, no.
First of all, I'm being facetious somewhat when I'm saying this, but if you didn't watch the game, just say you didn't watch the game. And I'm not accusing you of not watching the game. I'm accusing your analysis of coming across as if you did it.
Why? Because they had a little fourth quarter comeback?
Let me tell you why. Because here's my thing. When you look at Kirk Cousins, his one interception was when Diggs let the ball come right out of his hand, and he ultimately got intercepted by Flowers. He threw 2 touchdown passes. That's number one.
Earlier in the game, you're talking about now.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, an interception as well.
Here's what I'm saying. We watched a Vikings defense give up over 200 yards rushing. Again, I know you watched the game. I'm just accusing your analysis of being in such a way you just want to ignore what you saw last night because you want to make a point about Kirk Cousins. And I think the most important argument that's being made in favor of Kirk Cousins was what Molly said to jumpstart this conversation. The first 6 Monday night losses, who was he playing for? A person that you consider to be the worst owner in the entire National Football League, whose name you won't even acknowledge on national television, and I understand for good cause. My point to you is that nobody has abhorred the state of that franchise in the nation's capital more than you. So much so, I don't even think you like flying through Reagan National because you think you might be contaminated by Daniel Snyder, okay? So that's who the first 6 Monday night losses for Kirk Cousins was playing for. The Washington Redskins. What did we see last night? We saw a guy that was efficient. We saw a guy that reminded us, he is complete nearly 70% of his passes. He does have 23 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions. Oh, by the way, he put them in a position to compete in this game, but they couldn't stop the run all evening long. They gave up a big-time 60-yard touchdown pass. I think it was from Russell Wilson to Moore, for example. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings, I am not telling you that Kirk Cousins is Russell Wilson. I'm not even telling you he's Lamar Jackson. Certainly not Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. What I am saying to you, all I'm saying to you is this. We look at the Vikings, and we never, ever, ever anticipated that a team coached by Zimmer would be run over like that. They got ran over last night. When you rush for over 200 yards against the Minnesota Vikings, you are going to compromise what they're bringing to the table. I'm only talking about last night. I'm not talking about, because remember, I've had my own questions about Kirk Cousins. I'm only talking about last night. I am saying to you, when you look at what transpired last night, you're the Minnesota Vikings. You cannot win that way. I did not look at the Minnesota Vikings and go like this. Kirk Cousins is not getting it done. I looked at the Minnesota Vikings. Did Kirk Cousins prove it's not prime time? I thought their defense was what the problem was.
The question was not, did the defense let them down? The question is not, did Kirk Cousins acquit himself well as a competent quarterback?
Yeah.
We know Kirk Cousins can play. The question with Kirk Cousins is, in the moment of truth, can he ever get it done?
Is he not primetime? Do you think it's fair to say that stat is misleading based on what Steven said? 6 times with the Washington Redskins, 2 times playing in Seattle in front of the 12s, one of the loudest stadiums?
That would be if it was just the fact that he had the worst record in the history of Monday Night Football. That would not take into account the fact that he had his first come from behind, like first fourth quarter when trailing win as a member of the Vikings. Last month, he's been there almost 2 years. That would not take into account the empty calorie stats that he has delivered throughout most of his career. But mainly, what I object to is I'm told the quarterback position, you know, I'm the one saying it's overpaid. Everyone's like, no, you got to pay the quarterback. And Kirk Cousins got paid, by the way. When the drama is set up correctly, why do you think Booger said, okay, America, what were we all thinking? Let's not now say, can Kirk Cousins get it done in the moment of truth? When the answer is no, let's not then walk it back and be like, but he didn't make the worst passes in that situation. Maybe we didn't like the play call. He had been playing well. He did lead them back from a larger deficit in the fourth quarter. Let's admit what just happened. We had a question, we had an answer.
He didn't have Dalvin Cook or
Here's
Adam
the deal.
Thielen.
Dalvin Cook fumbled, plus he hurt his shoulder. We saw the interception that was taken right out of the hands of Stephon Diggs, okay? What I'm saying to you is there's a multi... Plus we saw... But what I'm saying to you is that you ultimately dig yourself a hole because, again, if they're running roughshod over you, that is not the day. The day after is not the time to point to what Kirk Cousins didn't do when you have a defense that's playoff ready in everybody's eyes, as they had an 8-3 record with Zimmer after the game talking about, excuse me, this ain't the end of the world, it's just one game. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.